Welcome, 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 everybody. This is the 81st episode of the Hashtag Investors Podcast. I am your host, Scott Bauer. Today, I'm blessed to have Templeton Walker with us. Templeton, how you doing, man?
I'm doing awesome, man. Thank you so much for having me. Honored to be here.
Really happy that you're here. Excited for this conversation. And first and foremost, I want to remind everybody, if you're getting value from the podcast, please do us a favor, like us, share us, and subscribe to the Investors Podcast. Because we're on a mission here. We're trying to positively affect every business and person out there that we possibly can with the content that we're providing here on the podcast. So we do that by everybody subscribing and sharing and spreading the word. So do me a favor and do that, and we'll get started here. So how are you, man?
I'm doing awesome, man. It just busy day doing deals. Like I was telling you, I was just doing a deal right before we jumped on, and I'm good. Life is good.
I like it. Well, a little bit about Templeton here. He is the owner of the Templeton Group. In 2018, they did almost $40 million in volume. He tries not to spend more than a few hours a week on that business because his true passion is building his portfolio and doing creative deals. He owns student houses, vacation rentals, single-family houses, condos, and one 8-unit apartment complex. He's trying to focus on making as much income as possible to pour that into cash-flowing assets. So, man, that's a great start. I think that's a good start to the call here. Why don't you give the listeners a little bit more about your background and what you're focused on now?
For sure. So 5 years ago, I'm a regular realtor. You know, I get my license, and I don't know. I sold women's shoes at Nordstrom before this. So, I literally didn't know anything. I was like, all right, let's go. I'm a realtor. And, my second month, I, sold, 4 homes to friends and family and made, $17,000. And I was like, oh, my God, I'm selling real estate. This is the game. But then you quickly realize, just being a realtor is pretty limited.
Yep.
So a few years into that, I got really good at finding deals. And I was kind of like a bird dog, but I didn't know. And then I realized people were paying me half a point or a point to find deals that they were then assigning and making $20,000 on them. So I got wise to that, and I was like, oh, I have a skill set here. Every deal needs to find the deal, and it needs the money. I didn't have any money, so I started to get really good at finding the deal. While that's happening, I grew Templeton Group, which I'll be honest, I don't love selling regular homes. But I have a really successful team that does it well. I have about 15 realtors. I have an operations manager, transaction manager, marketing manager. So that business runs and treats us really well, and I love it. But I really work on that business. I'm not in it. And like I said, so last year we sold about 40 million, and that was a healthy company. What I did most every day was go hunt for deals. So I wholesaled about 75 deals and flipped maybe 20 or 30 homes. I think it was 24 homes on the flip. So, and made really fantastic money. And that's where my energy and focus is. But for me personally, I'm I love finance and the way money works, and I want to be financially free. So I was like, you know what, as I earn high income, I'm going to take that extra income. I'm going to live lean and live modestly, take all that extra income and pour it into assets and grow a portfolio. So my wife and my kids and myself, we could be financially free, hopefully in the next couple years, instead of most people, it's 65, 67, and then they're free.
Right.
I'm I don't want to play that game.
I think there's a lot of listeners that listen to the show that would agree with that. I mean, that's the whole name of doing this game, right? We were kind of talking about at the beginning of the call, before the call, that, the transactional side of things is good because you can make a lot of cash doing it. You can make a lot of money doing it. It can be very transactional, but there's a few problems with that. Number one, as soon as the transaction closes, you're out, right? You have to go look for another transaction to chase. Number two, there's no real wealth being created in that, and you don't have cash flow. Real cash flow.
Right.
So at least you have to really work for that cash flow. It's active investment money.
Yeah, you're trading your time for that money. So if I'm going to take time away from my wife and kids and apply myself to something, one, I'm going to go do something that pays me really well, which wholesaling, real estate commissions, all that sort of stuff does. But then I'm going to live at a certain level, because for me, I wish everyone knew it was this simple. You make income, And what most people do is they then use that income, and whatever's left, they'll invest it, which is usually nothing. Like that is a surefire way to never be financially free. If you make income, pour it into assets, and then live off the cash flow that spits off those assets, you can be financially free in 2-3 years.
Absolutely.
So like, I always just focus on that. Like, yes, I'm making income today. And yes, I need to go hunt and kill, but I better be smart with that dollar once it's in my possession and what I allocate it for.
So I think there's a couple of different ways with that is really important. One is eliminating debt, and then also using, basically buying cash flowing assets. So I know some people out there believe that if you buy something and you go into debt, that's bad debt. And there's definitely a difference between good debt and bad debt, right?
I'm a pretty simple guy. Like, I'm no rocket scientist. So like for me, everything needs to be simple. And the way I describe debt is good debt and bad debt. Good debt is in my name that someone else pays for, or potentially in someone else's name, but I control, right? Like on a substitute or something. But it's in my name that someone else is paying for. Bad debt is I have to come out of my pocket and pay for every month. Granted, you're going to have some cost of living. You got to live somewhere. You got to drive a vehicle. You need to eat food. So you're going to have some attrition there, but there should be a surplus of money that you get to decide how you want to allocate. And most people allocate it towards things, possessions, keeping up with the Joneses. And I'm not saying don't treat yourself and live a good life, but if you can delay that gratification for a while and pour that into assets, good debt in someone else's name, or I'm sorry, in your name, but someone else is paying for, the wealth creation just starts to snowball.
Absolutely. And so what have you done? Let's back it up. I mean, how did you get started in real estate to begin with?
So I was selling women's shoes at Nordstrom. I know more about women's shoes than any straight dude should. You need a peep toe, sling back, a pump, I got you. And then I started selling a multi-level marketing pill, and I called my aunt, and I'm like, Aunt Cindy, and she's a successful realtor in Prescott. And bye, honey, love you. Sorry, my wife's leaving. She's a successful realtor in Prescott, and she's like, I'm not buying this pill. You are going to go to real estate school, and you're going to pay me back on your first deal. And I'm like, all right, I'll do that, but you're going to buy the pill, right? Because I wanted to make my $200. I was a goofball. But so I go, and like I said, like my second month, I sold like 4 homes, made like $17,000, and I was hooked. I had never made money like that. So that's how I got started in real estate. But so I had a son at 18. I had a basketball scholarship and found out I was having him as a freshman. That kind of changed my plan. So I didn't get to finish college the way I thought I would. And it really forced me to be like, you know what? I'm not going to get a traditional education, but I'm going to educate myself. So I became like, if I was in the car, I called it the University of Templeton. I was like, I'm going to be listening to something that makes me more knowledgeable and more effective in this business space. So I just started reading and learning. And that's where I got really triggered to like thinking about money differently, thinking about investing differently, and not just being a worker bee or just a realtor. I wanted to be the investor.
Amen, man. Yeah, I feel the same way. And I think that that's a continual process, right? Like you can't just stop learning once you learned it.
Never ends. Like I still have a coach. I still have a couple coaches.
Yep. And it's important to invest in that. Not only just listening and reading about whatever it is that you want to do, but I think we're going to come back to this because I want to talk about the importance of coaches for you. I have the same thing. And you know what, also, I should have stopped you when you said this, but the first job that I ever had, well, I wasn't selling women's shoes, but it was selling men's casual shoes. And I crushed it when I was –
Dillard's?
No, it was a small company called Trade Home Shoes in Des Moines, Iowa. Very first job I ever had, like real job, not on the farm, when I was 14 years old. And it was just selling men's casual shoes. And I crushed it. Like, I mean, it was like, I don't even know. I was 14 years old. I was doing better than most of the older men that were also sales guys there. It was crazy.
What's crazy about selling shoes is you can actually make like pretty good money. Like it taught me so much sales skill.
Yeah.
Because I was 100% commission. You earned at Nordstrom at the time, you earned 10% of what you sold. So I would try to sell $300 to $400 an hour. So I was making $30, $40 an hour.
Yeah.
Like I mean, to sell shoes, like there was a lot of grown men like providing for their families with that job.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I learned a ton. Like you had to be creative and persistent and hardworking and all the things that create a good real estate investor.
Right. And actually, it's kind of interesting. So shoes are one of those things that people don't do without, right? So like, at least here in the US, people don't go without shoes. You're going to always wear shoes no matter what. So it's one of those things, those commodities that always has a need for sales. Well,
Yeah.
real estate's kind of the same way, but actually much better. It's one of the basic human needs, which is shelter. When I first got into real estate, that was why I did so, is because it's one of those things that I'm going to go away.
You know what I learned? I worked just as hard selling women's shoes or any other thing that I've sold, but why not get paid better at the end of it? Like just have a higher ticket item, because dude, I was hustling for all these shoes and making 10% of a $300 shoe, or you could go make 10% of a $300,000 home or
Yep.
whatever.
Right. Absolutely. So it's just interesting how people get into the business and kind of, see, you know what I mean?
So that was it. I was just regular realtor, man, and just started to like look at HUDs and be like, oh, they made how much? And I made this much, which was still great money, but I just was not satisfied with just being a realtor.
So what year was the transition? Like, where did you really say, okay, I'm going to turn up the investment space?
So I got in the business as a realtor 2014, probably 2016. I started to be like, okay, I'm going to do this. And that's when I started to build my own portfolio outside of my own single family residence. And now I have 5 student rentals around GCU. I have a vacation rental in Old Town. I have the little 8 unit up north.
Is that in Flagstaff up north or like
in Winslow, man? I had wholesaled the deal in Winslow, Arizona once. I had never seen the property and I wholesaled it and made 75. So I've always kept my eye on these little like small markets because I'm from up north. And I was like looking to do that. And then I was like, you know what? The railroad hub is there and all these guys get per diem and they have to stay at these like terrible hotels. So if I turn these 8 units into these small little studios that they can pay me $500 a month, I mean, this thing cap rate was through the moon. So that's how I just kind of identified a problem or a hole in that market that I could fill. And then I have like small condos and like creative partnering deals and just trying to build my portfolio without spending as least amount of cash out of my pocket as possible with as much cash flow as possible.
Great. Yeah, that's a great deal. Wait, another question. Do you have a brokerage or is it a team at a brokerage?
No, so I'm with Steve Trang over at Stunning Homes. Okay. I do not want to be a broker.
Right.
The old saying is like, if you're a broker, you're a broker. I'm more of I have like a few things I'm really good at, and it's like negotiating and making friends. Like that's what I do well. And running an entire brokerage, it would be a mess. Like I would be the worst. So I'd rather pay him, let him make his bit of money on my deals and stuff. I do volume, so we make it make sense. And it's a win-win for everybody, but I don't have to deal with all the stuff.
Not to mention all the risk, right? Risk is
right. In Templeton Group, like we're off-site. We have our own building. I have my own operations. Like, so I'm almost like a small brokerage within the brokerage. Like I'm not really operating within their system.
Right.
But the stuff I don't want to do, they give me great support on, and it's incredible.
I like it. Yeah. And actually we just had Steve Trang on here not too long ago. Let me see what episode that was.
He's the man. He's one of my best friends and a great mentor.
Is he? Yeah. I mean, I haven't had the chance to spend a whole lot of time with him, to be honest, but he was just on the show episode number 68. So not too long ago, a few weeks ago.
Yeah, no, he's a smart guy. Like he's different. Like I'm like high energy, like crazy thinking, and he thinks crazy too, but he's more analytical and like precise. And I'm kind of like a tornado. So I like to see, and both get you there.
Yeah.
But it's nice to bounce ideas off of him because he has a little bit different speed than me.
I like it. Where did you, so 2016, where did you see the big ramp up really went? Like
I think when I started wholesaling, right? Because like I was making good money as a realtor, but then when I started wholesaling and I was making my real estate team money plus wholesaling, it gave me the capital to go really pour into investments. So like, that's where I think achieving high income is super important. So then you can go pour it into things that pay you forever. But I didn't do whatever, like a lot of guys are buying like crazy cars and, they're doing all this stuff looking fabulously rich, but they're not actually wealthy.
So many people do that, man. So many people.
And I went through it, man. I bought a big crazy house. I bought a BMW and a Mercedes on the same day. I did it. And then, but I quickly wised up. Like 10 months into that house, I went to my wife. I was like, hon, I think we're going to see a market turn. This was a year and a half ago. So I was early, but I was like, look, let's sell it. Let's make some money. Let's get out of those vehicles and let's create all this extra flow that we can pour into assets. And last year we bought 9 homes, you know, because I don't have a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
So that was like the ramp up. I'd say once I discovered wholesaling and I also flip a lot of homes and I'm pretty efficient at it. So I don't live on that income though. Like I don't drive a Lambo or anything, like no disrespect to anybody that does. I just have chose to take that capital and pour it into assets.
Eventually, I mean, there's going to be a time when I will drive a Lambo or whatever car I want to, but I just know that I won't have to pay for it, right? So that's the whole name of the game.
No, and I want all of those things. Like I said, I want that, but I want my hard assets to pay for it, not my time.
Yep.
Oh, I'm going to drive some dumb stuff, bro. For sure. But I just don't want to have that feeling of like, oh my God, if I don't close a deal this month, I can't pay for it. I don't want that feeling.
Yeah, and that's a bad way to live your life regardless, right? I mean, that's a terrible way to go.
And some people call it like a healthy pressure, which I get. Like if you know, like nice things fuel them to go work harder. But for me, it's like the thing that I always think about is like my passive income goal. Like I want to have X amount of passive income because then I can go live whatever life I want on that income. So I'm just not fueled by like, I mean, I like nice stuff. I'm just not like, I just don't want to pay for it.
Man, I tell you, it's a smart way to go. You know, you don't want to pay for it. You want somebody else to pay for it. And going out and buying all this materialistic stuff, once again, like you said, no disrespect to those who go out there and do that, but doesn't get you anywhere, right? It doesn't bring you more happiness. I don't think some stuff will temporarily, but
I think there's some guys out there that do it really well and they buy the stuff because it attracts a certain crowd that is allured by it. And then they trade money to be in that world with them. So it's smart, like driving a Lambo or whatever makes a lot of sense for them because the demographic they want to sell to are appeal to that.
Right.
So that's almost like an investment. So for them, it makes sense. But if you don't have like some sort of like product or service that you're trying to like promote and sell through this image, I don't think it makes sense unless your assets are paying for it.
So, yeah, I mean, I think a good takeaway there is like always have a plan, right? So there has to be a plan of what it is that you're doing and why. Why are you doing what you're doing? That's something for the listeners that's really important to think about is why is it that you're doing whatever you're doing? What's the point?
Gary Vaynerchuk, jab, 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 right hook. Like if you just throw jabs, which is like giving value, and you never right hook and then like ask for business. I mean, that's awesome to just give value, but what is the goal that you want out of the action, you know?
Yep, absolutely. So I think it's also pretty important. I mean, we're in the same market here. We're in Phoenix.
Yeah.
What have you seen happening from a standpoint of the market here in Phoenix? How do you feel like things are going right now compared to how they were a year ago? And where do you think they're going to be 5 years from now?
I think, you know, everyone's like trying to predict when our next slowdown is going to be. I think it probably comes at the end of next year when the elections hit. And because I really think our current administration is, I got to sneeze. Let me see if I can see the sun. Oh, man, it's not happening. Okay.
I hate that, dude. I hate that.
I'm trying to look at the sun. I think our current administration is going to do, like them, don't like them. I'm not going to even touch on that. But I think that our current administration really wants to get reelected, as every administration does.
Right.
So they're going to do everything, even if it's built on a house of cards, to keep our economy strong all the way up to the election, because if it doesn't go that well, they're not going to have a great chance for reelection, right? So
absolutely.
I think that it's going to be inflated at least till the end of next year. And then when it does turn, I think guys like you and I, which I'm really struggling with this right now, is staying patient. Like I love deals. I want to go buy deals.
Deal junkie, man.
But sometimes it might be smarter to just be like, you know what, let me take some cream off the top, put this cash in the bank and be patient and wait. And people are like, hey, you got dead cash sitting there. But it's like, if it does turn, I don't want to be so leveraged that I can't be involved.
Right.
So our market, I think, is headed there. The difference between where we were a year ago and now is I just think we're closer to that edge, and I think there's a palatable feeling within the industry where people are going, all right, something's coming. Something's coming. I don't think we see anything like 2007, 2008,
Right.
but as we see a softening, are you going to be prepared? So for me, as a licensed realtor, I just want to I want to be the guy that has options. So if I meet with a seller, I go, and I want to disclose because like, I want to be a good human being. Like I have WWJD on my wrist here. So when I meet with a seller, I want to go, look, if we fix this place up, it's worth $250 and I can help you do that. Like if you want, it's going to cost you 50 grand though. If I sold it as is today, here's what you'd walk away with. Or if I gave you a cash offer, here's how it pencils out. Here's the money I'm trying to earn. And that might make the most sense. It's as is, no commissions, no repairs. What works best for you? And there's sometimes I go in with an offer pad and an open door offer already ready because I know it's probably that's what's going to make the most sense. And I work as an affiliate with those companies and get paid 1% because my offer's not going to work anyway.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I try when I sit down with anyone, I think this is where the people who are really smart, we talked about not having, if you only look at wholesale, 1 out of 20 leads is going to work. But
Right.
if you can go provide those other 4 options, now every seller you meet with, you can have a solution. The people that figure out how to do that are going to be here in the next 5 years. They're going to, because if you're just a realtor and that's the only hat you wear, in 5 years from now, there's a great chance you get pushed out of this market.
Amen to that, man.
It's like you played basketball, right?
No, man, I did not play basketball.
Well, I played basketball in college. Like I love hoop. And it's like being an amazing shooter, but you can't play defense. You can't do anything else. And it's like, well, now your shot is not valuable because your guy can go score on you every time, right? No matter how well you shoot, if you don't have some other skills to round you out, you can't be on the court because you're too much of a liability. So that's how I look at people who only know how to do one thing, only a wholesaler, only a flipper, only a realtor. You need to round out your skills and deliver options to the consumer.
So for the listeners that are out there, how can they become, and yeah, I'll just ask the question. How can they do this? How could somebody go out there and learn how to do more than one thing? Let's say you're a new wholesaler or a new fix and flipper or whatever. How can they go about learning all these other different strategies? Where do they go to find that?
I mean, so many people have like coaching products now. So I would go find a mentor, like someone that you connect with their vibe and energy, and that they're a proven mentor. Like they're like, if I would find someone like you in my market and go, look, I have hustle and grit and time and energy. Can you please plug me in and I will do whatever you tell me to do? That's what I would do. I'd go find a mentor because I want to go learn your wholesaling, your creative financing, your apartment acquisition. I just want to be in your world. So I'm going to provide value just to be around.
Yep.
So if your weakness is that as a realtor, well, go find a great realtor that you know, like, trust, is maybe third party validated, and say, look, I need to sharpen this skill. How can I bring value to you? And I'll show up and I'll do it. If it's a flipper, bring value, sell them a deal at a really small fee on a wholesale and be like, look, I'm hooking you up fat for this flip. Will you show me your process? You know, just lead with value and find mentors. The greatest, like, that's why I love books. You can stand on the shoulders of giants. You get to have conversations with the greatest men and women we've ever had in this world. They get to speak to you directly. How amazing. That's why I love reading. Like, I'm an avid reader. So I would keep consuming knowledge, have as many conversations with these books. These are the greatest people who have already touched all the hot pots.
Dude, yeah.
Telling you what to do. So read like crazy, find mentors, be honest with yourself about what your weaknesses are. And then don't, like, for me, I'm not going to go try to do something that I'm just terrible at. I'm either going to outsource it, leverage it, or move on from it, because it doesn't make sense to like run into a brick wall over and over again when, like, if I was trying to be the point guard for the Lakers, like, I'm just probably not going to be the point guard for the Lakers. You know what I mean? So I think people need to be honest with themselves and then double down on their strengths, find mentors, and their learning curve will be like, shoom.
Yeah, you know, that's such a good point. I think mentors, this is probably a good spot to transition into coaches and mentoring for you, and what that looks like in your life today, how much value they've added. You know, it is truly the game changer. A lot of people, when they're looking at the cost, the upfront sticker price of a coach or a mentor to come into their world, they're like, oh no, that's too much money. But what they're not looking at is the value that's being provided from that coach or mentor to allow you to go do whatever, make 10x whatever you paid them, right?
So I started coaching 3 years ago, and I was making pretty good money, and I didn't want to pay the money. Like I'm cheap. Like I was like, I'm not going to do it. Like that's just too much. Even though I had like all logical signs said every successful person I want to be like is coaching, I should too, but I still wouldn't. I wouldn't. So I finally pulled the trigger with Building Champions, Bill Hart, and he helped me for 2 years so much on traditional real estate, business organization, self-discipline. And as that relationship, sometimes you're ready for a new coach, you're ready for whatever the next chapter is. I was really ready for a creative finance, real estate, off-market real estate coach, like wealth creation. And I found Matt Atchison, he's like official Matty A, millionaire flipper. I don't know. He's got products. And he coaches me one-on-one. And that has been honestly, because I'm the head guy, right? Like at Templeton Group, I have no one to answer to. I work for myself. And I was an athlete. I like being coached. I like being pressured and told what to do and being challenged.
Yep.
And if you don't go hire a coach when you're the head guy, who's going to do that? I mean, my wife, God, but like, there's no, like, I can just do whatever I want unless I set targets and I'm held accountable.
Dude, that's such an important part. I mean, having somebody when you're at the top is very hard. It can be lonely. I think a lot of entrepreneurs out there are lonely, right? Or feel the loneliness of being an entrepreneur because it's lonely.
You're on an island a little bit.
Right. And I've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars at this point now on coaching and mentoring on purpose, though, right? They keep you moving forward. They keep you pushed. They keep pushing you. They give you targets to set and hold you accountable. And so the listeners out there that have thought about getting a coach, I think I've talked about it on several other podcasts here about the importance of having a coach and mentor, but I highly urge you to do it.
Right now.
So I've had several different ones. Trevor McGregor, he's a Tony Robbins Peak Performance Platinum coach.
Okay.
Has been a big one for me. And then we got some local guys here, Brett Tanner being one of them specifically. That's been a big help. Those are the two main ones that I'm coaching. I was
on Brett's team when I first got in real estate. That dude is a business savant. He's smart.
Yeah, he is super smart, and there's just a lot of stuff. He keeps me outside of my comfort zone more often than I'd like to admit it. But it's good. And I actually took a break from all of the coaching a month ago. So I put everybody on pause. I said, you know what, I'm going to go try to figure all this stuff out on my own because I thought that I knew it all and I thought that I had it figured out. But what I found out was after that a small amount of time, not having those coaches and mentors in my back pocket, having our weekly or biweekly calls to stay on top of things started to kind of not go as they were when I was coaching with them. And so I just turned it all back on and we're back on track.
And that's sometimes you got to do that though, because we're human beings who have a familiarity complex. Like when things become familiar, you start to not value them. It's like that t-shirt you bought and the first 3 times you wear it, it looks good. You feel good. You're like, this shirt is the bomb. But eventually that t-shirt ends up in the back of the closet and you're like, oh, I'm going to donate it.
Yep.
That can happen with coaching, with relationships, with your body. So if you don't fight that familiarity complex that human beings have, it's a dangerous game to play. And it takes intentional action to remind yourself and be grateful for the things you have. So that's cool that you did that.
Yeah, man. It's part of learning, part of the growth strategy for every entrepreneur. I think you have to continually be growing, and sometimes you have to take a step back in order to move forward. So
it's hard too, because like I'm always looking at my P&L. Like that's something Brett taught me. Like I sat down with Brett when I was a newer realtor and he was going to help me and I didn't have a P&L. He goes, all right, well, meeting's over. He goes, I can't do anything for you if you don't know your numbers. Like I can't tell you anything. And I kind of left that, like he was a little hard on me. I was like, oh man, that felt terrible. But what it taught me is that I didn't even have a business at that point because I didn't know. I didn't even know my numbers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but where I was headed with that is you look at your expenses and sometimes coaching is on there and you're like, oh gosh, I could do without this. And then you do without it and you're like, oh, I need it.
Right. No, it's a huge deal. I mean, masterminds, coaches, mentors, everything, all that stuff matters 100%. So Glad you've been involved with it. Where do you feel like the next, what's your next, what are you chasing right now? What's your next 5 years look like?
I want to achieve my passive income number, like my freedom number. Like if I made this much money that poured in from assets a month, I would be free. Like we could travel, I could take time off, I could do deals or not do deals, and I could be happy. Yep. So I'm really chasing that number. And I want to get there, and just like, my coaching calls really do a good job, because so often I get caught up in the income, the active deals, and the true importance is the passive, the cash flow that I'm creating. And I always need to like pull myself back to that. So looking for creative assets that are going to pay me cash flow is like my number one thing. I can't wait to have coffee with you so we could talk about apartments.
Absolutely, man. Me too.
You and I have been thinking about a ton, right? So
let's take action and get it done.
Like where we're at, this is one thing I'll say is, like, I was selling women's shoes and it was paying me X. And then I got into real estate, it's paying me X. There's another level. Like there's guys looking at what you and I do as if it's women's shoes, like it's small potatoes, right?
Yeah.
So they put their pants on just like us. They're human beings. Why can't I go solve bigger problems like them and get paid better for it?
Absolutely.
That's what I'm always kind of thinking.
I like it. Well, for sake of time here, man, it's been good. You've shared a ton of content. I think we've got a lot of points out of this podcast so far, but I want to end the call with a lightning round. Are you ready for a lightning round?
I'm ready. Let's roll.
All right, man, let's do it. Why don't you tell me about a time when you passed on a deal, and was that a good decision or not?
So these apartments that I just bought up north,
mm-hmm.
I should have passed on the deal. I ended up buying them. Go up there with my contractor. We spend the whole time. I'm kind of telling you a deal I actually ended up taking that I should have passed on, but it's $100,000 to renovate. We shake hands. Great. I give him the first draw. He goes up there. He calls me. He's like, hey man, this is going to be 140. After I didn't do enough due diligence to plan and prepare for my exit. And I really wanted to own an apartment complex so bad. So it was like an affordable one in a bad town. So I was like, I'm buying it. And I should have bought it. So right now I actually close on that next week. I'm selling it for a little bit more than I bought it, but after fees and stuff, I'll lose $5,000 or $6,000. And it's like, I should have passed on that deal. And I knew it, but I wanted to own an apartment complex. I wanted to say, I bought an apartment complex, even if it's a shitty little 8-unit in a small town. I wanted that so bad. I let it cloud my vision. But I'm glad. You either earn or you learn. I went through it. I learned so much from it. So I'm not even upset about it. But from a financial perspective, it clearly didn't make sense. I'm going to lose $5,000.
Which, I mean, could be a heck of a lot worse, right? That's not really bad.
I'm fine. But any deal that loses, I hate losing. Like, I don't even want to lose $1.
Right.
But I learned a lot. I proved to myself I can go buy assets like that. I proved I can raise the funds for anything I need. Like, I have the capability. Now I just need to apply it better.
That's huge, man. I appreciate you sharing that. And I think that the takeaway there is, you should have passed on it, but you didn't do your due diligence. You didn't have your exit figured out correctly, right? So doing that again, but you learned. So you won't do that again, I'm pretty sure.
Yep.
What's the last book that you read, and what was the major takeaway of that book?
I just revisited it. This book changed my life. It's called Goodbye Things.
Goodbye Things.
It's about minimalism. It's by a Japanese author, and it's translated into English, obviously, because I don't speak Japanese. But it really helps you get re-centered on what's important in your life as far as materials. And it takes you out of that need or that want or that desire to compare or to say, well, Scott's got a really sick truck, so I need a really sick truck, or, whatever it is. It's just like, you're happy with yourself. You limit kind of the fluff. And what that does as an investor allows you to have more capital than go to deploy into assets. So if you haven't read Goodbye Things, I highly recommend it.
I love it, man. I've never even heard of that book, but it sounds like a great one. I'll make sure to order it. I think the listeners should as well. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. Really do appreciate it.
That's more of a life book, there's so many great business books, but that's like a life book that has changed me. That's why I sold my giant house and my crazy cars and stuff. Cause I was like, I'll have those things someday, but someone else is going to pay for them. I don't need them right now.
Right. Absolutely. What are you trying to learn right now? I mean, I know that you're trying to,
I want to learn. Remember how I said, everyone's looking at the next set of deals as like small potatoes. I want to know how the guys who are looking at what I currently do and earn, and they're like, oh, he's only doing that. I want to understand how their brain works. How do they syndicate apartment deals, large commercial development? Like, that's what I'm reading about. That's what I'm learning about. That's what the networking I'm trying to get in and trying to put my focus on. So I want to solve bigger problems that have a larger reward at the end.
Man, amen to that. Amen to that. Well, what is your superpower? You know, if you could give yourself one, what is it?
I think I have like too much confidence. like I'm from a small town. I'm like so I got to kind of be like a big fish in a small pond. And I think that like gave me like this naive confidence where I like thought I was the guy. Yeah. And I'm really not, but like I think I am. So like I think I can do anything I want to do.
You can. So like that's the thing.
Like that's like I really believe it, like to my core. So like I've always like overachieved because I thought I could do it. And it's not even overachieving. If you believe it's possible, then it's possible. And if you believe it's not possible, then it's not possible, right? So I think that's a superpower, is kind of the way I carry myself. And then I do two things well. I make friends and I negotiate deals. That's it. Like I don't write contracts. I don't know how to do an algebra problem. I don't know how to do, like, I'm not like smart in those ways, but I'm really good at connecting with people, understanding their position, and finding a solution for everyone.
I like it, man. I like it. That's actually a really powerful superpower. And I feel like you and I are very similar in that aspect, right?
Right.
Being a good entrepreneur, I think, right?
Yeah, you're a room worker, you know, like I make friends, I have high energy, I'm friendly, I'm likable. Like I think that's kind of my gift.
Yeah, man, for sure. Well, leads into the final question here. How can the listeners get in touch with you if they want to learn more? They want to invest with you in a deal, if they just want to be part of your world? Where can they find you?
The two best ways to connect, the number one way to reach out to me is going to be via Instagram, and it's Tempe Walker, Tempe Walker. I'm not from Phoenix, and there's a city called Tempe. My full name's Templeton, but my family always called me Tempe growing up. So I moved down here. I'm like, oh, I'm Tempe. And people were like, what? So I was like, but Instagram is Tempe Walker. And then I have a podcast, the Templeton Walker podcast, that I'd love for people to listen to. I talk about all sorts of different stuff, investing, life, mindset, different stuff. So it's not just real estate. It's kind of more life oriented.
I like it, man. I really do. I like it. Well, appreciate you being here. Look forward to staying connected. You shared a lot of nuggets for everybody.
I appreciate you, man.
And, for the listeners out there, if you got value from this, make sure to like it, share it, subscribe. Tell all your friends, your buddies, because I think that Templeton dropped some good knowledge for you today. And I'm sure I'll have you on again to do a follow-up call in the future.
I appreciate you, man, so much.
All right, we'll talk soon. Thanks.